All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Worst the First here on hoopslounge.com with your hosts Phil and Justin. Fourth in the Western Conference. This is regular season. We have the OKC Thunder. This is a team, not much shuffling of players, an addition of point guard Cameron Payne through the draft, and losses of my man, Perry Jones III, and Jeremy Lamb. I know not many other people will shed a tear for Perry, but I will, especially that he's the boss. Justin, this is a team that has all the talent in the world, but it seems like the injury bug has hit them in the kneecap every single year. I mean, when you have two of the five best players in the league, which is pretty much consensus around most writers, you have Serge Ibaka, who's one of the rare 3-and-D guys at a forwards, big man position. You have scoring off the bench, Dion Waiters. You have DJ Augustine, who can run the show when Westbrook's off, and I think that's one of the best point guard combos. You've just signed Enes Kanter for an exorbitant amount of money. He scores the ball and rebounds, and you also have Steven Adams, who has one of the, I think he could be a very functional center. Why is this team fourth?
Because the West is ridiculous. I mean, we said this with the Houston preview as well. But, I mean, ahead of them, you have a San Antonio team that consistently is around the top of the league that had big additions. You have a Golden State team that was number one in offense and defense, and just ridiculously deep, and they got deeper. And you got a Clippers team that added a ton of depth and also has two MVP candidates. So when you're looking at the Thunder, the injuries are obviously a big concern. We need to see how Kevin Durant is coming back. In my opinion, this is going to be the year where he really takes over and is the best player in the NBA. Russell Westbrook, I'm a massive fan of as well. We really need to see how Enes Kanter and Serge Ibaka work together. We only saw a really small sample size, and that was without Durant. But there were still some legitimate defensive concerns there. Kanter is one of the worst defensive players in the NBA, and I don't know how much a high volume, or even though he does it efficiently, his game is predicated kind of around scoring. I don't know how much you truly need when you have Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant on the court. Is an offensive center really what this team needed? I know there was a lot of talk about what they were missing offensively when they had Kendrick Perkins in there, and Perkins obviously isn't a good NBA player. But I think their shortcomings had more to do with Durant and Westbrook going down with injuries, Ibaka going down with injuries, than a lack of scoring from center. So there's a lot of changes there, and for me, that was kind of one of the deciding factors to move them down a little bit in the standings compared to teams that are a little more established.
Yeah, I can see you there. I think part of me kind of hopes they're starting Adams and having Enes is more of a change of pace when maybe one of those guys like Durant has to come off the bench, onto the bench, and so they can maintain scoring. Maybe bring on a Dion Waiters and have always 2-3 guys who can put the ball in the basket. I feel every year we have the same conversation. This team has talent. They're young. They've played together. One of the new additions we didn't mention, Billy Donovan, the new coach.
Yeah.
Obviously from Florida there, who I think is going to do a really good job. But I think it always comes down to the crux of the argument. Is Westbrook a player that can play with Durant? Because I don't think it's the other way around. I would never doubt Westbrook's talent. I think it's immense. But my question has always been, can he play second fiddle? We say this every year, and he says the right things. Durant says the right things. But when we see it on the court, it just looks like two superstars who are waiting for their turn. And as much as they might be friends off the court, the continuity to me sometimes lacks. Would you be able to sell me that this is a duo that can be successful, not only the regular season, but playoffs going forward? Because part of me thinks that one of these guys has to go.
I'm not a fan of that argument at all. I'm, like I said earlier, I'm a massive fan of Russell Westbrook's game. He is someone that averages over 8 assists a game, which is a considerable amount. You're talking about two guys that are legitimately number one options. Now, most teams would kill for even one, forget two of these guys. We've seen in the past few years, I mean, the Miami Heat won with 2 number 1 options. Well, really, I mean, 3 if you count how good Chris Bosh was, but Dwayne Wade and LeBron James were both alpha dog personalities that got along well off the court. There was a little bit of your turn, my turn, but at the end of the day, they were still one of the most effective rosters in the NBA. And they won 2 championships as a result of that. The numbers when Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant are on the court together are ridiculous. This is one of the best teams in the NBA. This is a team that can legitimately win a title every year that these guys are together. I think when you're looking at someone that's going to feed the ball more, like a more traditional point guard, let's say, or as much as positions are irrelevant in today's NBA, if you're looking at downgrading your talent just to get Durant a few more shots, I don't necessarily think that's the way to go. I don't think it's worth it. Durant, I think Westbrook is the one with a true alpha dog personality, and that's something that Durant needs. I think the attention Westbrook draws allows Durant to be this hyper efficient monster that he is. We've seen him dominate without Westbrook in the fold as well, but I think those two together just complement each other so well. There's no way that any defense can properly account for both of those players, and in my mind, you'd be crazy to try to break them up.
That's fair, and in fairness, I do love both players. I just worry that, you know, the shot taking would have some issue because of that alpha dog. And it's not Westbrook's fault he's an alpha, but I do agree with you. Like, I wish I could take his killer instinct and put it into Durant or his leaders. Anyways, that's a secondary point. But, you know, part of me watching last year's playoffs was looking at how everyone's going small ball, right? You're seeing the Golden State, Draymond Green at the 4, even playing some 5. Part of me is like, is this the time where they start considering just shifting everyone up? I know they just paid a lot of money for Cantor, but having kind of like an Ibaka, Durant 4-5 against, we'll say, 2/3 of the league.
I mean, I think that's something you could deploy at times. You can almost liken it to a blitz in football. You don't want to blitz every single down, but if you're putting that pressure on, and when you think that you have a favorable matchup, hit them with that. I think you certainly can run DJ Augustine at point guard, Russell Westbrook, maybe throw a Kyle Singler there at small forward, Durant at the 4, Ibaka at the 5, especially if a team's going small. There's just no way that you can account for that. You have multiple guys that you can run Durant and Westbrook in a pick and roll, pick and pop. You can run Ibaka in similar situations as well. You have a lot of spacing. So I think that is something that they probably will consider and that they will do. I don't think long term you want to have that as kind of your starting lineup, but I don't think that you have to have this one consistent style of play at all times. Golden State went big a lot too with Festus Ezeli, Andrew Bogut at center. You have to win and have to be able to play multiple ways because there's teams that can just throw different looks at you. You need to be able to beat Golden State one day, and then you got to deal with Zach Randolph and Marc Gasol in Memphis. You don't want Durant covering Zach Randolph because that's just going to put too much pressure on him. So I think this is a roster that is suited to be versatile and do things like you brought up there.
Absolutely, and I think that's one of their best points. Like, I think having the ability to throw a huge front court of Cantor and Adams, or be able to slide those guys up, have Ibaka. Like, to me, I'm just envisioning all these guys: Ibaka, Durant, Singler, Augustine, who can hit threes, and then Russell Westbrook just knifing his way in and kicking out and just creating this panic offense. And then like the next quarter, you can come in just really bang down low with a punishing Adams, guys attacking, and just like, I think that could be the secret sauce to this team, just throwing so many looks that teams don't know how to adapt. Now, as a final question, I'll say we had them a little, like in terms of talent, maybe they should be number 1, but we had them a little bit lower. Would you say this is more because we're predicting some injuries, or they're going to rest some of their stars, or is it literally just the other guys are just that much better?
I think that there's a lot of change in OKC, especially with new coaching staff, supporting players that haven't played with the stars together. I mean, Singler, Cantor, all these guys haven't played minutes with Westbrook, Durant, and Ibaka.
And it's a brand new coach putting them all together, right?
Right. So there is going to be a transition period. And I think one bounce here or there throughout the season, one game-winning shot either going in or missing, could be the difference between being second and fifth. Like, the margin is so small, it's so slight, that given the changes that they have, I think this is just the way that I'm more comfortable ranking them. This is still a team that could easily be first in the Western Conference, go to the NBA Finals and win it all. But when you're trying to come up with a ranking, you look how many ifs are there, and there's just a few transitions, there's just a few changes that are going to take a little bit of time, and I think you have to respect that process. And for that reason, that's why I had OKC where I had them, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, it could mesh really quickly, or it could take some time, but they just have a couple more questions than the other teams in my eyes.
I see that. And looking to your crystal ball as the last point, Kevin Durant plus minus 70 games played this year.
I'm going to go plus. I think the league is better off with Durant in it. I think they did a good job of being cautious the second time that he required the surgery. He's really made sure that he hasn't rushed himself back. He's everything, by all accounts, it's gone properly and there hasn't been any setbacks. The sounds out training camp is that he's good. So hopefully there isn't a freak injury. I don't think that this one has a good chance of re-injuring himself, but it sounds like he's Kevin Durant again. And I mean, injuries could happen to anyone. Russell Westbrook had one of the longest games played streak out there. Like, he had never missed a game in high school, never missed a game in college, never missed games his first few years in the NBA, and then all of a sudden he's had bad luck with injuries. So you never know when it's going to happen, but I'm going to say Durant plays over 70 games this year.
All right, I think I'll agree with you for most of the same reasons. So let us know, guys. Do you agree with our ranking of the OKC Thunder here on Worst to First, or do you have something to say? Let us know in the comments or hit us up on Twitter. Be happy to continue the conversation. From Justin and myself, catch you next time.